We're the Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. If you've got HS, you'll want to meet us. It's not your fault, put the shame to a halt. HS divas know how to have a ball. The Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Put the shame to a halt, cause it's not your fault.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Hala. I am here with Sid and Brinley for another episode of Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Thank you so much, UCB, for sponsoring this episode, and let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Shout out to UCB for sponsoring us.
Yeah, UCB.
Yes. Yeah. And today we want to talk about specifically how you can support someone with HS. You may have HS, you may not, but how can you support someone who does have it, who you love, who you care about, who you work with, etc. So, Sid, how can a partner support you?
I think my partner can support me just by always being like receptive to what I want to talk about when it comes to my HS. Never making it feel like a nuisance, or he never makes it feel like never making it feel small because he's not walking through it. So just always trying to have empathy for me. Even though he may not ever have to walk in my shoes, having enough empathy to be like, you know what, like, I totally understand that you are not in the mood, or, you know, that you can't cook dinner tonight, or whatever that looks like for me. That's the one thing that I look for from him. So that's the best way he can support me.
And Brinley, how do you feel like a partner can support someone with HS?
I think the best way would be to be open to having conversations that things may look different in your house. And they may look different at different times. So for me, I never wanted to I never want to let my husband know, in particularly like when I'm not feeling good and having a flare. I always thought that, still do think that I can hide it really well, but apparently my bitchy attitude gives it away, that I'm in pain and not doing as well as I think I am with hiding it. So I think just being able to have a conversation and say like, listen, I'm really having trouble. Can you take over this duty for me? Or I really just need to lay on the couch tonight and not do anything. So asking for what we need, I think, is really hard for us sometimes. So I would say being open to the conversation, and I'm not asking anybody to guess what your spouse needs, but maybe just offer them if they need, you know, hey, do you just need to take it easy tonight? And make it easy for them to accept that help, because we really do have an issue. I think a lot of times accepting help, we don't want our HS to be a weakness for us.
I think for me, taking the initiative to possibly do some research on your own makes me feel very loved. I'm not asking you to anticipate my needs. You're not a psychic. I get that. So yeah, ask for help. But I also just think like when you care about someone, like you should try to maybe do some self-learning too and understand that this may not be easy for us to talk about. I think that's something we can transition into my family. I wish my family even like would take the time to listen to these episodes. You know what I mean? Like, I think we now, even just between our platforms and a lot of the other ones, like it's at your fingertips. Like, and if we're telling you like the internet isn't telling you the truth, just look at Brinley's page, look at Sid's page, you know? I think just that makes me feel very loved. Almost not anticipating my needs, though. That's not what I need.
But informing yourself, because nothing makes me feel more proud of a HS warrior than when I see their wife or their husband advocating for them in the comments.
Yes.
Like, hey, my husband really suffers with this. Thank you so much for spreading light on this, you know, condition. I've learned so much on how I can help them. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you don't even know how much they appreciate and love you, because you don't have to be here. You know, you could have unfollowed me because maybe you thought like, oh, I don't need that on my timeline, you know, but you stood and you're getting informed and you're getting educated. So that way, you know that you can help them. And I'm like, that's such a powerful love language when you are the HS warrior.
Yes.
Like, nothing makes me feel more seen, validated, and heard from my partner when he's like, oh no, like my wife can't do that. Like, she's got HS. And it's not like he's like putting limited beliefs on me, but he's just like, I already know that like she's not down for that. So
I'm
like,
sorry, we're out of the 5K marathon that you're running this weekend.
Where can we donate? Our money, not our time.
And not to call us victims, but you know, like sometimes we're just not strong enough to even. battle it, and sometimes we shouldn't have to. And I think like that's just so simple, taking the time to just learn a little bit. Like I feel like with so many other diseases, we make sure to educate ourselves a little bit, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't even have families with, I don't know, X disease, but I know a good amount about it because I've seen it on TV and decided to go, what is that, and educate myself just a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that makes me feel very loved with family, like siblings, parents, like knowing, or even if you didn't learn anything, just knowing, hey, I looked at your Brenly's page, it was really cool. I saw what your friend Sid was doing. I didn't realize HS could look at how it looks on Sid, because I think that's another thing. It's not just how it looks on me. This is a community I'm a part of now. Like, care about it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, care about it. You know, I feel like everyone takes the time to hear about your job. You know, we all have a good understanding of everyone's job we love. A decent understanding.
Yeah.
Take the time to learn a little bit about my condition, you know?
And I think social media gave me that, with a sense of my family and my like community of associates that you see, like even people on like the pickup line at school, you know, different things. They recognize me and they're like, oh my gosh, like, and we get to have this conversation. But that the social media has given my people a way to educate themselves without me having to like really educate them like face to face. Like, okay, this is what HS is. You know, I'm like, bro, go follow me on social media. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
you know, and then because they see firsthand what I'm not always willing to show them, like, well, this is HS, you know?
Yeah.
They see it through the video, even if I'm like, because I'm damn sure not out here like, hey, dad, these are my butt cheeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if he happens to see it on social media, because he's not blocked on everything,
Hey,
he'll
Dad.
be, he's like, wow, it gives them like a peephole into my everyday reality. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, and that's my point. It doesn't even have to be our platforms, but take time to look at a platform that does have HS, because I think it gives you a glimpse of to what someone with HS.
Yeah.
And I think it's so much more than that too. Like we've talked about, there's so many corresponding things with HS. Like you can look at a HS platform and maybe get a glimpse of what people with ingrown hairs go through. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's so much bigger than just that. HS has so many symptoms that so many other things have. So chronic fatigue, many people suffer from that. Just learn a little bit about chronic fatigue. I think for me, I don't want to have to tell you to care or learn everything about.
I shouldn't be your
going through.
only source of education on what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And what I also want to tell people is that your spouse or your partner or whoever they may be wants nothing more than to be normal. They don't want to have to struggle with these issues. And I think sometimes because of the chronicity of the problem and how long it can happen and how chronic it is, that sometimes we become really depressed about our condition. And I think being aware of that and looking out for those signs and symptoms, and asking, you know, is what you can do to help with that. Because it can become a very, very overwhelming thing for us. So just keeping an eye out for that as well, for their mental health, is really, really important.
This is a really hard one for me, and I don't think I have any ways to even answer this. How do you have your coworkers support you? And this is going to be more you. I think you work a more 9-to-5 job, Bryn. Like, how do you even have those conversations?
Well, I didn't do anything really super special when I was in the office. I mean, during COVID, I got to work from home, and then I did not have to go back into the office. So for me, I learned what my triggers were actually during that process. But as far as asking for help, like from your coworkers, I don't know that they can actually do a ton to help you, but I think it's the emotional support.
Yeah.
And I think even that is really hard to do and ask for, because I mean, I've been the girl at work who had gauze that I thought was tucked under my armpit or in my groin. I don't know at this point. Either one of those locations, highly likely. And then all of a sudden it's not there. And then I'm panicking and I'm like, oh my God, who's going to find my fucking gauze on the floor, you know? And then
I don't even know who that
Yeah.
is. Gross.
and
I don't
then
even
you
know.
pick it up and you're just like, oh, that's nasty. And you're like, it's mine, you know? Fuck.
Or have you ever picked it up and it's been yours and you're like, oh, who did this? Because you see everyone. You pick it. I have, sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe y'all are more mature than me, but I've definitely seen my Band-Aid on the ground and been like, oh my God, someone left a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
When we couldn't find it, it was outside your mom's house.
After the Taylor Swift parking lot Taylor Swift concert, I couldn't find my gauze from my groin surgery. Yeah. The next morning we walked out and it was outside on the concrete pad.
Yeah. I'm always like, oh, who would do this?
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, oh, who's Band-Aid?
Yeah, who would do that? Mine. That's why I'm the one picking it up happily.
Yeah. So I think just emotional support from your coworkers. Like, nobody's really going to understand what it's like to have HS except you. I mean, I think people on their worst day will be like, oh my God, I had a boil and it was horrible. And you're like, okay. This is not the same thing. And thank you for trying to empathize, but it's really, really different. So emotional support, I think, is the best thing. And then if you need support in the form of like a butt cushion at work, let's say, for your chair because you have to sit, ask your employer for an accommodation if you need to. Most employers are extremely accommodating and are happy to just buy you a butt pillow if that's going to make your life experience at work better. So just don't be afraid to ask for what you need. If you need a sit to stand desk because you can't sit all the time, go ahead and make those requests. Talk to your employer about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. We should be able to talk about our HS the same way that people talk about diabetes. Yeah. It should just be that commonplace, or high blood pressure.
Yeah. And I do want us to maybe dig a little deeper for this, but younger us, how could we have felt more supported from a parent? Oh, I know. This one might make me cry. Just younger you. I'm talking when it was bad, maybe you didn't even have the diagnosis. What could your parent have done better? Or what did they do great?
I think my mom did the best she could, which what she knew. There wasn't much that she could have done different when there was like scarce diagnosis going out. You know what I mean? There was more medical professionals who did not know what was happening. So, I mean, I think my mom genuinely did the best that she could with the information that was handed to her. If I wanted to be like petty and be like, well, she could have taken me to specialists and, like things like that. She had 6 kids, and I'm just being completely transparent. Like, there's just no way. My mom felt like she was in a single marriage for a long time. And so I think if there was anything that she could have did better was take a little bit of the burden of feeling like I had to grow up so fast, because I believe stress has always been a really big trigger for me. So if there was anything that she could have lightened the load a little bit was like, be a kid, like, you don't need to be my best friend. You don't need to know, all the problems and the financial hardships that I'm facing as an adult right now, because I think it stressed me out, which caused my HS to get a little bit out of control. But even then, I'm like, she probably didn't realize the weight that I was carrying because I never also expressed that to her. So if I could go back and redo it and be more communicative, even with her, I think it would have helped a little bit. But when it comes to just like, if she could have like taken me to the doctor, I think she absolutely did the best that she could.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same about my mom. I think she, 100% did the absolute best that she could with the information that she had at the time. Mm-hmm. As more information became available and as I got older and learned more about HS, and especially now, like, we've had many conversations about that feeling of guilt. The one thing I work on trying to tell my kids, and I really can't go backwards, but I'm trying to redo or help them do it differently than I did, is to give yourself more grace. Like, I didn't give myself any grace, any time to heal, any time to process anything. I always just pushed through at 100% of the time. And that was really, really unhealthy when I look back at it. I didn't allow myself any time to just, if I was dealing with pain and having a bad abscess, I would never just like accept that this sucked and sit down and just let it suck for a while, So I'm really trying to help both of my kids not just continue to keep pushing through, because it's not helpful or healthy emotionally, physically, anything.
Yeah.
So if there was one thing I wish my mom would have told me, and she would have had no freaking way to know that, it would be that. Like, just let yourself take the time that you need.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you guys had such amazing parents
and
who handled this so
yeah.
well.
How can your mom have
I
better?
agree. I think my mom did the best she could. I always talk about my mom was a nurse, and I mean, my first experience with HS was a staph infection. So I think she did what any nurse did and try to make sure all of her children were safe and be aggressive with it. But I do wish she was less reactive. Maybe initially she would react just even with her words. Be like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do." Like, and I just wish sometimes she would have
been nurturing.
Yeah, been a little more maybe even treated me as she had to treat one of her patients. She can't go with her patient, you know? No, but honestly, and I think I see a lot of friends, family members immediately going, ew, or even just the faces. Like, I get it. It grosses me out sometimes too, but just try not to react. Like, really take a moment in and not be so reactive. On top of that, I would say, and this is something I think everyone could do to support us that loves us, is don't just tell us what to do. Maybe be willing to do it with us. So even, my mom was at the time, and once again, she didn't know that. I can't really blame her for that. She didn't know what HS was, but immediately it was like, maybe lose weight or exercise more or do this. But I'm okay with that. Like, let's do a healthier decision, but maybe go on a walk with me. Say, instead of doing this today, let's go on a walk with
So
me.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
Was weight an issue for you at the time HS started happening? Because I look back and I'm like, I wish I had that body right now.
I was always just heavier than the average kid. I don't know if I can say I was plus size, but I mean, I was heavier always. I was always just a heavier kid.
Did they call you big boned?
All the time. I
Yeah.
got called Big Bird, y'all. Okay.
Oh my God.
I'm also like, yeah, that's why I am where I am now. I needed this height. I needed to be big, No, but seriously. But even that's my point. Like, I think sometimes people are just like, do this from the outside in. Like, well, do it with me then. Like, let's spend some time and do that. And I'm not saying make it your burden, but I mean, if you love me, like, let's do it together. I think those are just things you do when you love people. And I think my mom may have been better with that than some parents I've seen. But yeah, like, just take the time to do it with me then.
Yeah.
Like, there's healthier things, but I don't think like people need help sometimes in a different way. Like, and maybe just also understanding that your approach isn't working as someone supporting, and you got to change it up too. Like, if you're telling, I've just seen people treat people bad with illnesses, and like, that approach isn't working. Like, if you're calling your sister fat and she does need to lose weight, but she's not losing the weight, why are you still just calling her fat? Like, that's clearly not an approach.
That obviously doesn't face them
doesn't
now.
and it obviously just doesn't work, else you would have called them fat once they would have lost the weight. Like, obviously that's not working. So I think people supporting you can like take the time to, within reason, take accountability.
And if you think about it, not just HS wise, but just like when it comes to like wanting to make that change for your lifestyle and it comes to food, it's very hard to want to do that, especially if you and your partner are one of the same. And it's like, I'm out here trying to work on my diet and you're still eating M&Ms before we go to bed. Like, how am I going to be better? And every moment I turn around, you're the one who's the temptation. Like, you are the temptation. And that's very, very hard. And it also will make you kind of resent that partner or that person or your friend or whoever. Because like, you're like, damn girl, I'm over here like trying real hard to make it through the day. And here you are like always like doing the opposite of what I'm trying to do.
Undermine it. It feels like,
It takes a village. It's like the parent who's always yelling and cussing at their children, and then they're mad when their kids start throwing tantrums at school. Well, they're picking this up on you. So in the home, you need to stop throwing the fits and the tantrums. You have to start teaching them that. So I just feel like taking that accountability as someone, if you love someone and care about their experience with this disease.
Yeah. And I think, what about friends? Like, I know, for me, I know that sometimes I can't necessarily go to the bar that our friends are going to go to because all they have is bar stools there. I can't sit on a bar stool. So that bar is out for me. As a friend, what could friends do to support somebody who has HS?
So I think my friends now see through the lens of my eyes because of my social media. I think my best friend genuinely would have never known that stools were an issue for me if I wouldn't have been like, hey, can you record this video for me while I try to sit on this stool? Because we're at the freaking bar and I'm like...
Which, by the way, was so freaking relatable.
Right. And those are the little pockets of my day that get the most interaction because it's like somebody sees 5 seconds of being relatable.
Yes.
And so for my HS community, they felt validated, they felt seen, they felt heard. But for my best friend, she was educated within that moment. And so now when we go out, she's like, oh, bet there's stools. We should probably get a booth or we can sit at a table. We have time to wait because we don't want to sit at the bar.
Yep.
So yeah, I think just you can educate them through your content. If you're a content creator, you can educate them by simply saying like, hey, sitting on this stool is not going to be the best option for me. Or, hey, I don't want to go clubbing Like, that's not my scene. It's not my vibe. It gives me anxiety. We're too close to people. I feel like I smell. Like, I much rather do like brunch and mimosas, like,
Yep.
so it's just my sisters, even they know when to invite me out and when to not. The last time I called after munchies and mimosas. I was like, okay, maybe we won't do that again. But I still love you, sister, and I still most definitely want to have this valuable time with you, but maybe we just need to switch up the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's hard too because we're really unpredictable with when our HS happens.
Yeah.
So we may be out like having a great time and then all of a sudden it's like there is something brewing and I gotta go.
I gotta go. Something's leaking. I felt it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, we can't necessarily always be counted on, I think, and sometimes, and that's not from a not wanting to be counted on place at all. But we may start out the day with the best of intentions that we are meeting up tonight. We're going out. Absolutely. Girls' night. Here we go. And then we get a flare and we have to cancel. And I think that there's such an incredible amount of guilt that comes with that too. So just the understanding piece of that, knowing that it's not that we don't want to go, it's that we can't go, or we're going to be very uncomfortable the entire time we're going to be there, which does not sound
I'll
like
go,
fun.
but I'm going to complain the entire time.
My friends have been really great, and I actually, like, honestly, probably the best people universally in my life with my HS. Like, I've just been very blessed to have friends that are like, I don't know what that is, but I don't care. Like, these little things. And I think for me, it's just been, that's actually been more on me and communicating to my friends, you know? And something I've done, a little tip that I think helps is when you're committing to stuff, don't commit for a long time. So say even because
if I just
as
drop
a friend,
by.
I also feel like as a friend, as a partner, no matter what we're going through, we do have to show up for them within reason for certain times. Like to be an equal friend, no matter our disease, we do need to show up within reason, So for me, my thing is like, I'll stop by. I am the queen of I'll stop by. And sometimes sometimes I'm stopping by for 2 minutes. Hey, bye. But I can let you know down the road, like I could only come I did have a flare up, but I could do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour. So I also think this kind of goes, we talk about sex in another episode, but the people who love you do care, and I think they just need to know sometimes, and it is on us to communicate, And when you were talking about work, I realized I've never, I think, ever told a coworker I've had HS. Like, why would I do that? But duh, do it. Like, do it.
By the end of the day, you've spent more time with them than they do at home with your husband or your kids or anybody.
And you see them every day in the most stressful situations. And it's even funny that we have this shame behind it, because I'm like, when I think of the coworkers I've worked with, they're like, oh my God, she's stressed. How can I help you, girl? Like, and I'm like, of course they would help with that too, So.
And think about it again, it's not rare. So how do you know
that the
person that you're talking to every damn day about like all of these life issues, and then all of a sudden you tell them that you have HS? How do you know that they're not carrying that underneath their shirt too?
And if they don't have it, they know somebody who does.
Yeah, and guarantee somebody in your office has it. Somebody, 1 in 10, you guys, 1 in 10 people. If you think about that, it's insane. So there's so many of us out here.
So wait, 1 in 10 is 10%. Correct?
It's so they say that it's 1 to 4% of the world population, but we think that's actually inaccurate. That we think that it's a higher prevalence, but that's what they're working on, trying to collect data.
How can they make 1% seem so small?
1% does feel really small.
It's like of the entire 7 billion population.
Yeah, but it's really actually not that small. So
I mean, 1's a lot to me, actually.
Yeah, 1 to 4%, but I think it's more.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll find that out. That's one of the things we're trying to get a better handle on.
And you will also learn on this podcast, clearly none of us can do math, because 1 in 10 was clearly 10% to me. And I don't know. I was like 1 out of 10, so 10 out of 100, that would be 10%. Nope, clearly not. Okay.
10 out of 100 is...
Yeah.
None of us can do math.
Listen, we didn't make it here because of our great math skills, okay?
Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Please drop below how loved ones can support you. And thank you to UCB for sponsoring us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey guys, it's your girl Mahala. Thanks for tuning in to Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVA podcast, and thanks for sponsoring UCB.
We're the Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. If you've got HS, HS, you'll want to meet us. It's not your fault, put the shame to a halt. HS divas know how to have a ball. The Hidradenitis